Hello, everybody. My name is Mike Coriano, and today I will be visiting a few important numbers within the U.S. economy. We'll look at unemployment rate. We'll also look at economic growth, or the gross domestic product, which is GDP. We'll also look at inflation rate, and we'll also be looking at the national account. So let's dive in. So at the end of August of 2025, the unemployment rate in the United States was at 4.3%. This actually shows an increase of 0.6% going back to August of 2024, just a year ago. So personally, I had thought that the COVID-19 pandemic would have still been a factor in the current unemployment picture, although we're only 5 years removed from it. But the economy, in a sense, has already recovered from the historic rates of unemployment that were experienced during those times, which reached 14.8%. So, just before the full effects of the pandemic hit, unemployment was sitting at 3.5% in February of 2020. So, unemployment eventually made it back to that 3.5% mark in July of 2022, which indicated that they had already recovered, made a recovery in the economy. So, as of right now, the reason that we're seeing higher rates is basically an increase in labor force who are seeking out jobs, and also there's fewer unemployed laborers who are landing jobs. Um, Although this is a higher rate compared to 3 years ago, it is still considered historically low given past economic outlooks. So overall, 4.3% is still considered a good range to be in. When we're talking about economic growth, the GDP, gross domestic product, the U.S. Ended this quarter two of this year, with a gross domestic product of 3.8%. So this is actually a welcome number given the negative 0.6% that quarter one ended with. So factors that positively influence the GDP in this case are a decline in imported goods and an increase in consumer spending. So, on the other hand, negatively, a decline in exported goods and the number of investments somewhat offset these positive factors. So, given the results of the last 2 quarters, the economy is currently not in an expansion since it's only experienced the one consecutive quarter of growth. And it's also not in a recession given the previously stated facts of low unemployment and increased consumer spending. So, that said, we are in a recovery phase. Um, so, the economy, although it moves in cycles, the current GDP of 3.8% is above average, which indicates a normal or healthy rate of growth. Another quarter, like quarter two, can easily ignite conversation of expansion. Inflation. So our current rate of inflation in the United States is at 3.1%. This is a core inflation rate, which does not include volatile items such as energy and food. So, in a sense, inflation, having some inflation is considered normal. And over time, the value of the dollar will decrease. Um, Only in rare circumstances will we see deflation actually occur. Deflation being when inflation goes below 0%. So with that, 3.1% is actually just a little above the Federal Reserve's target of 2%. So this is still considered a good rate. To influence rates, what the Federal Reserve does is they raise and lower interest rates. So as inflation increases, the Federal Reserve can raise interest rates. It'll slow down the economy, and as a result, it'll bring inflation down. And the same works in opposite. As inflation decreases, interest rates will then be lowered, thus stimulating the economy and raising inflation back up. So the current account for the United States sits at $1.97 trillion. That is the current national debt, just short of $2 trillion. This is a deficit, and it's achieved basically by spending more than what is brought in. As a matter of fact, the U.S. has been operating in a deficit since 2001. The national deficit can be viewed as both a positive thing and a negative thing. Positively, it demonstrates that the U.S. is moving forward. It's spending, it's investing. But on the negative side, it can be seen as irresponsible, and it could lead to a heavy burden being placed on the economy. So, given the different numbers that we've reviewed, 4.3% unemployment, gross domestic product at 3.8%, inflation at 3.1%, and the national debt deficit being at nearly $2 trillion, we can say that the economy seems to be in a stable condition. Of course, it does depend on your outlook of our national deficit, but the rest of the numbers indicate that our economy is currently strong. So, thank you so much for watching. Take care. Have a good night.